בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב. We are back on our Sunday night shiur, continuing our series with a Jewish HaShkafa, the ideology of what a Jew is must have and really what a non-Jew, a Noahide, should have. Tonight's shiur is going to be for Refuah Shlema for Avigail bat Surya, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Levana, Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Orit bat Ilana, Michal bat Yael, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Stefan ben Katarina, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Marsha bat Julie, her dear daughter Ayla bat Marsha, and sons Samuel ben Marsha and Alexander ben Marsha. And all of Am Yisrael will have BeEzrat HaShem, Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, and all of our supporters, whether Jews or non-Jews, that love Hashem, want to do the will of Hashem, and simply are doing the best that he possibly can. And of course, Yodea Ta'alumot, the one who knows what's hidden, knows exactly if we're trying our best or if we're just saying we're trying our best. So as a brief update regards to the movie, I know a lot of people are asking about the movie. Baruch Hashem, we released another preview of the movie, another trailer of the movie, a 3-minute trailer, which even among ourselves, the team, when we see the trailer, we say, wow, it gets us excited to watch the whole movie, even though we're actually making the movie. So yeah, the trailer is very good. BeEzrat Hashem, there's going to be one more trailer, and then BeEzrat Hashem, we're going to release the movie. So with everything that we're planning, and of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything is in His hands. We expect the movie, or pray for the movie to be released, along with several other new additions, new things that we're working on alongside it within the next month. So we're now down from 2 months to 1 month. BeEzrat Hashem, we're trying to do a few things alongside it to make sure that it's not going to be just a one-hit wonder, but rather something of a tool that each and every one of us can use on a regular basis to get chizuk for this specific issue, to get constant support on this issue. So BeEzrat Hashem, we're working on a few things. One is a major upgrade to the app. Another is also a website, and a few other things, BeEzrat Hashem. So for all of you that are being supportive, not just with words, but also with actions, whether you're donating your time or your money, to help us get this movie out there to as many people as possible, you should already know that you're buying yourself an olam haba. Now again, as I always tell people, and they ask me, "Oh, what should I do? Should I donate my my $100, $500? Should I donate my MUSSAR to it? What should I do?" The answer is very simple. Every single person needs to do the best they can and understand that they have to follow what the sages say. Because if we don't follow what the sages say and we just listen to our own intuition, many times that doesn't work. And that's actually part of what the Chazon Ish is really discussing tonight, is that many times you have people believe that their intuition is going to lead them to the right place. But unfortunately, if that intuition does not sync with halacha, with the Torah itself, many times that intuition will steer you wrong. So our sages have told us that when it comes to tikkun BEIT, when it comes to this horrific situation that is really en bait she'en bo met, there's no house that has no dead body when it comes to this sin. Every house has an issue when it comes to this. Even in the days of the Rambam, he wrote in Ilchot teshuvah that you're never going to find a community that has such a thing, that no one has a problem with this issue. Hence the reason why it's mentioned in the Torah time and time again, from the beginning of the Torah, Adam HaRishon, all the way to the end. Tikkun Brit is one of the things that a person needs to take on themselves, whether they're male or female. They need to understand that this is part of their overall purpose. And Chachamim that talk about doing a tikkun, aside from obviously the obvious, which is stopping the sin, making sure that you're not putting yourself at risk by going to certain places or spending time with certain people. If you sinned with a certain guy or you sinned with a certain girl, you can't go back dating them. You have to understand that. You either get married or you have to simply never see each other again. Judaism does not believe in platonic relationships because those platonic relationships end up becoming atomic relationships and pretty much destroy both your and his olam haba, your and her olam haba. And that's one of the things that people seem to forget, where they always think that they could do it different or they could figure it out, and I can do this and I can do that, only to realize that you've destroyed your world, and whatever blessing you could have had in this potential marriage or this potential relationship of how it's supposed to be simply went out the door along with your olam haba until you do teshuvah. So a person needs to understand that when it comes to tikkun brit, this is not a sin that's just for you. It's for all of us. All of us have violated this in one way or another. Either a person is promiscuous with themselves or with somebody else, even if it's certain thoughts that they have, certain movies they've watched, and so on and so forth. So this movie is not just for those people that are already far gone and addicted to this particular issue, but rather even your everyday person, your everyday avrech, your average rabbi, your everyday person needs to constantly get chizuk on this particular issue. And this movie, BeEzrat HaShem, is going to help any single person that watches this movie. Because it's not just that we're bringing you, my voice as usual, telling you what we've been telling you for the last several years, but rather you have literally over 100 Torah sources that are quoted on the screen throughout the movie, and we made a special effort to do it at the end of the movie for anyone that wants to write a book or something, or just do their homework and just look at every source. You have over 100 sources mentioned. You have the psychological aspect of it, the social aspect of it, and a lot of other things in this particular movie. I personally think it's the best movie I've ever seen, period. Not, regardless of what you compare it to, just because it's so informative, it's so strong, but it's not what some people think. It's scary like a horror film. Sure, there are definitely some parts that are relatively scary, just basically the words that are scary, and even some of the things that are shown on the screen are scary. But the scary part is one of the amazing team members said to me just last night. He said, in my past I used to watch horror movies, and I never really liked them, but I watched them. Some people do that to themselves. And he said, I never liked them, but I watched them. But I'd say to myself, it's not real, it's just a movie. It's not real, it's just a movie. And that's it. Those bad thoughts and bad dreams would just go away. He says, the problem here in this movie is that I can't say that anymore. You can't say it's not real, it's just a movie. It's not real, it's just a movie. It's real. And it's through a movie. It's simply, the movie is in essence, a representation of reality. And then, quite frankly, reality is much scarier. So this particular movie is supposed to give each and every single person that watches it the strength and the wisdom to overcome this issue. And anyone that listens to it will benefit. Anyone that supports it will benefit even greater. As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says to us, Gadola me'aseh min ha'oseh. Greater is the person that helps another person do something good than the person that's actually doing the thing that's good. Why? Because the person that's doing something good, chazak u'baruch, you're doing what you're supposed to. But the person that's enabling another person to do something good, not only are you doing something above and beyond what you're supposed to, but on top of it, that other person might have not done that good deed had it not been for you. So in essence, there's a greater reward for those that support such a film, such an endeavor, such a chizuk to the nation, than literally even the people that are doing teshuvah for it. But needless to say, everyone that's going to be a part of it will benefit in a great way. And the one thing that our sages have said regularly throughout all of the books that I've read about it, whether it's the recent or the earlier books about it, constantly the sages that discuss the tikkunim, the tikkunei Zohar, the Arizal, and the Tanya, they're constantly mentioning that when it comes to tikkun BEIT, if you're going to replace the fast, the 84 fasts that you're supposed to do, instead, replacing one sin of wasting seed by yourself, or 166 fasts of being with a nida, because it's both or a goya, because it's both a wasting seed and it's with a woman that you're forbidden to. So it's 166 fasts. If you're going to replace that with money, know for sure that it's not just the money. It has to hurt. It has to hurt. Why does it have to hurt? Because fasting hurts. So anytime you're asking yourself, oh, what should I give? How should I give? Should I give it all? Just know this is the advice of the sages. Now, some people think, oh yeah, it's all about money here. Listen, don't give. If that's what you think, please don't give. We don't want that kind of money. We don't want people to think it's just about money, because this is a favor to you. This is a service to you. We're not using that money to build houses. We're using it to market the movie and to do more good for Am Yisrael. But you don't want to donate. You think it's about money. Please, 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 I beg you. We cannot handle any type of money like that. Money that's tainted like that, we can't handle it. We don't want it. And many times we've had certain people tell me that they want to give that kind of money where they're having second guesses. I tell them, please don't give. Don't give. This is not the type of organization that we have. Why do I mention this regularly? Because again, as someone else told me today, you have to tell people this because it's an opportunity for them. And if you don't remind them, they're simply going to forget. The Yetzer Hara is going to go in there and tell them to do something else. Tell them to go spend that few $1,000s on a watch. Tell them to go spend that money on something else. And they're going to simply forget. So you're doing them a service. So this is the public service announcement. Again, you want to give, bechavod. If you want to know how much to give, an amount that hurts you. That's the amount. An amount that hurts you. If you have X amount of money, you know that if you give a few $100s, it's not really going to bother you that much. Not going to bother you that much. You're going to forget about it by 5 minutes later or by tomorrow. But if you give a certain amount of money that's going to hurt you, meaning you're going to remember it the whole week, not that it's going to make you broke and poor and you can't pay rent, but it's going to hurt you because you know that this portion of money is missing. That's the amount you're supposed to give. This is according to the sages. With that being said, Rabotai, one of the main subjects that the Chazon Ish has been delving into very deep in the third chapter of this monumental book, is the psychological aspect of a human being and how much can we rely on ourselves. How much can we really rely on ourselves? You see, last week and the last couple of weeks, the Chazon Ish has been telling us that there are certain people that, they want to learn MUSSAR, or perhaps they learn MUSSAR. They learn ethics throughout their life, either from books, or just from their parents, or their friends, or their teachers, or whatever it is. But they practice that ethical behavior, which again, could be extremely nice, extremely good. They're generous, they're kind, and so on and so forth. They have good traits, but those ethical aspects, those ethical attributes, if you will, are only based on their understanding. They're only based on their likings. It's only based on simply their psyche. It's not based on halacha. And he says these people that have morals without halacha, meaning their morals are not coming from the Torah, they're not practicing this moral behavior because they learned it from the Torah, but rather they learned it from the streets, they learned it from certain books, even if they learned it from MUSSAR books. But they don't really know when to apply these morals. They're bound to be destructive. They're bound to perform evil. Why? Because they will not know when it's good to be merciful, when it's not good to be merciful, when it's good to be kind, when it's forbidden for being kind, and so on and so forth. For example, if somebody told you, please, there's a poor man over there, you have a few dollars, maybe you could help him. You say, of course, I'm going to go help that guy. That's very kind of you. But what if right before you gave him that big $20 bill, or maybe you wanted to be extra generous today, you wanted to give him whatever is in your pocket. You wanted to give him whatever is in your pocket, you just give him. I know somebody like that. Whatever was in his pocket, he gave it to some people. That's a very generous person. But right before you did that, somebody came and whispered in your ear, by the way, that's Hitler. What? What do you mean it's Hitler? You mean the guy that's going to kill 6 million people? Yeah, it's him. See that mustache? It's him. I thought he's... No, it's him. Yeah, see? It's him. You still going to give it to him? Well, listen, he's homeless right now. Okay, go ahead, give it to him. He's going to kill 6 million people with that money. So is that kindness? No, that's stupidity. Meaning, you can't just be kind whenever you feel like it. You have to think about it sometimes. Same concept when it comes to mercy. You can't just be mercy. We see one of the greatest human beings that ever lived, Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, was the first king of Am Yisrael, chosen by Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. He was instructed by HaShem to go fight the Amalekites, go kill them, destroy every single thing that they have. And he comes back and the Navi rebukes him, says to him, what'd you do? You didn't kill all of them. You have women, children, and you have this one guy, he's the leader of them. Over here, he's alive. Shaul says, look at this guy, this leader, Agag. Look at this guy. He's 60 pounds soaking wet. What could he possibly do, this guy? This Agag, that's the leader. I felt so bad for him. He's such a scrawny little rat. What are we going to do? So I put him in a cage. The prophet rebukes him and tells him, you did not listen to the word of HaShem. And because of that, HaShem took away his kinghood. And prophet came and killed Agag. Took a sword and killed him on the spot. Now, unfortunately, Rabotai, Shaul HaMelech was a tzaddik, such a tzaddik that the Gemara says, had the roles been changed, reversed, meaning had King David been the first king and Shaul later on, and King David wanted to kill Shaul, Hashem would have let Shaul kill David. That's how righteous Shaul was. But even as righteous as he was, he made a mistake. He made a mistake, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu says to the prophet Isaiah, En shalom Hashem amar l'reshaim. Hashem says, no mercy, no peace to the wicked people. No peace, forbidden. And Shaul had mercy on the leader of the Amalekites because he was a scrawny little nothing. Now you say, wait, but anyway, the prophet killed the guy. So what's the problem? The problem is that it was just a few moments too late. It was just a few moments too late. By the time the prophet arrived and killed him, this Hagag, this Rasha, already was intimate with one of the maidservants in the jail over there. And from there came their descendant Haman. Haman HaRasha, who we're going to learn more about on Purim coming soon, BeEzrat Hashem, that almost destroyed all of Am Yisrael. So we see from here, Rabotai, is that if a person is morally amazing, he's kind, he's generous, he's merciful, he's this, he's that, he's got the best ethics in the world, but it's not because he's following halacha, he's not following the Torah, it's bound to be destructive. Now this is not only, as we can see from this one example, this is not just from your average person or your average Gentile or non-religious Jew, even the great among us. Even the great among us have failed at times because they did not follow the halacha. Now we see in this week's parasha, Parashat Yitro, that Yitro is showing exceptional character traits by when he sees Moshe, he's humble, he's pleading with him to please let him in. You know, I'm your father-in-law and this is your wife and these are your sons. These exceptional character traits. As soon as he heard about Hashem and what Hashem did, he gives up all of his idolatry. He comes to Mount Sinai to meet up with Am Yisrael. Unbelievable things. But you see, after this, it says in the Parashat Yitro, that Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe, saw everything that he was doing with the people. Moshe was judging the people. So Yitro was just sitting there watching what Moshe was doing all day. Meaning, not right away. He didn't say anything. Right? He just watched it all day. And he said, what is this thing that you're doing to the people? Why do you do it alone? With all of the people standing from you. Meaning that Moshe Rabbeinu was judging all of the people. There was a line from here until Halalulu. Really long line. Millions of people are waiting to get the deen, the judgment from Moshe Rabbeinu. They want to know what the halacha is. Yes, no, allowed, not allowed. Is he right? Is he right? Is she right? Is he right? All types of things. And everyone's standing online. And comes Yitro and he's waiting and he's watching all of this. And he says, Moshe, what are you doing? You're being destructive to yourself and to the people. You're never going to be able to do it by yourself. And he gives him the suggestion of building a court system, which, by the way, as I always say, anything that's of any value, anything that's any good, must have a source in the Torah. And he says to Moshe Rabbeinu that you have to have a court system, certain court system that handles big cases, smaller cases, little cases, in essence, the Supreme Court system, the civil court system, and so on and so forth. All the court systems that we have today are based on this week's parasha, Parashat Yitro. He tells them you have to have a court system. Now, who should lead this court system? Who are the judges of this court system? These people should be men of accomplishment, meaning people that know a lot of Torah, God-fearing people, men of truth, and people who despise money. Those you shall appoint over the people as leaders. So he gives them a few traits that these judges should have. They should know Torah, they should have Yirat Shamayim, because if you know Torah without Yirat Shamayim, we've already learned many times, that Torah is worthless. Without Yirat Shamayim, there's no preservative. That Torah is simply an intellectual endeavor that will lead to disaster. So it has to be someone that knows Torah, they have to have Yirat Shamayim, they have to be men of truth, stand for the truth, and they have to despise money. And it says that Moshe, Vayishma Moshe lekol chotno, vayas kol asher amar. Moshe heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did everything that he had said. Fantastic. Yitro comes from Midian, and Hashem gives him the thought, now Yitro, that you've done teshuvah, you've given yourself brit milah, now that you've accepted the entire Torah, I'm going to give you an extra gift. You're going to give an idea to Moshe, one of the smartest people that ever lived, actually the smartest person that ever lived, much smarter than anyone that ever existed, even smarter than Shlomo HaMelech. There was really simply nothing that you could compare Moshe Rabbeinu to. And the point being is that you have Yitro coming to him with an idea, and Hashem says that idea is going to work. You tell that to Moshe, and that's your gift. That's how you're going to be stamped into eternity for all of your sacrifices that you made, Yitro. You left idolatry, you came and joined the people, you gave yourself a brit milah, you're chazaku baruch, you're going to get stamped in eternity, in my Torah. Fantastic, right? So far, so good. But then we see the next verse. After we see that Moshe listened to everything that Yitro said, it says in verse 25, again chapter 18, Moshe chose men of accomplishment from all of Israel and appointed them as heads of people. Vayivchar Moshe anshe chayil mikol Yisrael. Moshe chose leaders that were accomplished, meaning that they were Talmidei Chachamim. Hold on a second. Yitro said that they also needed to be people that hated money. They also had to have Yirat Shamayim. They also had to be people of truth. What happened to that? Chachamim say he couldn't find anyone that had all of those attributes. The best he can get were people that knew a lot of Torah. Now you could say, oh, well listen, they knew a lot of Torah, they knew what Hashem wanted, surely that's going to lead them to Yirat Shamayim. Surely they're going to stand up for the truth now that they're seeing Hashem, the 10 Commandments, all the wonderful things that happen in Mount Sinai. Surely, I mean, there's 10 Commandments is in the same parasha. Surely they're going to see all the wonderful things. They're going to have Yirat Shamayim. On top of that, they're going to defend it. They're going to be men of truth. And who cares about money anyway, right? That's the problem. That's the problem, because although these people, hundreds of them, in fact, 250 of them, they learned the truth. They saw the truth. As it says in this week's parasha, where Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, וכל העם רואים את הקולות ואת הלפידים ואת כל השופר. The entire nation sees the voice, sees the sound, sees it. What does it mean? See, how do you see sound? How do you see sound? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a visual illustration of what the sound was. In one of our shiurim, Torah and Science, we showed how there is a way to see how the Hebrew alphabet looks like, to see how it sounds like, I mean. When you say it, use specific machines, and you'll see how the voice of saying the letter will actually draw the letter itself. Unbelievable. Only the Hebrew language. Anyone that wants to know this or see this, you can watch our Torah, Science, and the movies that we have on our channel. Anyway, Rabotai, here we see that Am Yisrael saw the thunder and the flames and saw the sounds of the shofar. They saw the sound of the shofar and they trembled. So these people, these rabbis, these 250 rabbis that were picked to be the dayanim, the judges of this court system that Moshe Rabbeinu is putting together, the first Sanhedrin, of course they're going to have Yirat Shamayim. Everybody said, listen, Moshe, you go talk to Hashem, we're going to do whatever he says. So surely they had Yirat Shamayim. Surely they're going to defend this truth. What else are you going to defend if you're not going to defend this? And they already knew some stuff. Now they know even more. What's the problem? The problem, Rabotei Yekarim, comes the Gemara. The Gemara comes later on and says to us, Masechet Sanhedrin, how did Korach convince all of the people to follow him? Not regular people. How did he convince all of these big rabbis to follow him? 250 of the biggest rabbis in the world followed Korach to go and try to remove Moshe and Aaron from the place. How? Gemara says, because Korach befriended them by giving them money, and a lot of money. Hey, you want to come to my son's bar mitzvah? How about this? Don't even say yes or no. Here's a nice envelope for you. Then you tell me. And he started giving them what we call in Hebrew buchtot. Little piles of cash. Here you go, Rabbi. Yeah, here you go, Rabbi. Here you go, Rabbi. Here you go, here you go. Before you know it, each one of these rabbis became rich. Now, it's not a problem to help a rabbi, Talmid Chacham, be rich. It's actually even a mitzvah that Hashem says that you have to do with the Kohanim, the Talmidei Chachamim, you have to support them, and so on and so forth. But the problem is the rabbi worthy? Is the rabbi worthy to actually be such a person? Here in this case, we see that the rabbis failed. Why they failed? Because that money, the Gemara says, started blinding their vision, blinding their perspective, blinding their halacha. And when Korach said to them, I'm going to go against Moshe Rabbeinu, they started evaluating, wait a minute, going against Moshe Rabbeinu, surely they're going to need a big rabbi to fill the role. I mean, Korach, he's good, he's a tzaddik and everything, but he needs somebody that's a rabbi, that's a known rabbi. Maybe he's going to put me. And if he's already giving me $1 million a year just for being his friend, surely he's going to give me a bigger salary if I become on his team. And every one of those 250 rabbis thought he's the one that's going to get Moshe Rabbeinu's job, or at the very least, Aaron's job. Forgetting about the fact that they're about to remove and kill the Gedol Hador, the Ish HaElokim, Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't like a friendly debate. Oh, listen, you won, okay, so you take the position. No, there was no democracy. Whoever won, that means that the second person died. And here they forgot, the money blinded them. The money blinded them, Rabotei Yekarim, and all of their Torah was literally put on hold as a result of their moral lackings. And better yet, their morals went on hold because they forgot their Torah at the wrong time, if you will. So now comes the Chazon Ish and tells us, how does such a thing happen? How does such a thing happen? In the 3rd chapter, 4th section, he continues saying, a person's evil inclination is especially active when the sin is hidden and unclear. For the force in man's heart that condemns destructive behavior, the force that aids a person in his battle against the body's desires and wishes, this force is dormant and it lacks the power to condemn the evil results of a crooked judgment. Here, it's a mouthful. Chazon Ish tells us, first and foremost, you should know, the evil inclination is in every single one of us. Now, the worst type of evil inclination, the worst type, is the evil inclination that's on a sin that's hidden and unclear. What does it mean, a sin that's hidden and unclear? Everyone knows, Jew or Gentile, religious or not, that murder is a sin. Murder is not good. Everyone knows that. That's not a sin that's hidden. Everyone agrees. Everyone knows that stealing is not allowed. Everyone knows. Even the thief knows it's not allowed. He may rationalize it that he's stealing from the rich in order to feed the poor, even though the poor ends up being him. And even if he says, listen, I'm stealing from the rich, even if I'm already rich, because, listen, the rich already have enough, I don't, and so on and so forth. They rationalize everything, but the point is, no one is denying that violating the sins of let's say, stealing or murder and the likes is a good thing for society or for yourself. No one is denying that. That's not a sin that's hidden. What's a sin that's hidden? A sin that's hidden is a moral sin. A sin that's hidden is a sin where you could easily rationalize your way out of it. Now, a person's evil inclination is especially active when it comes to those sins. Now, the Gemara says, okay, you have an evil inclination, great, but how come he chose to murder and he chose to commit adultery? How come? Why does one guy choose this and another guy choose that? And there comes a very, very interesting part. I know a lot of people ask about this stuff. Very interesting part. For anyone that learns Gemara, you already know this. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat. Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, all the way in the end, has a very interesting section, and then we're going to add a little seasoning from the Zohar Kadosh. Listen to this. Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 156a, says the following. It is written, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi's ledger. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi was something out of this world. As we've talked about, he is always the one that's dealing with things from like different worlds. Unbelievable. Now, he was born on a Sunday. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi was born on a Sunday. Okay. Oh no, I'm saying, he says, he who is born, a person who is born on a Sunday, will be a man of one nature, without one trace of any other nature in him. What does this actually mean? What does it mean to be without nature? All this stuff. What does it all mean? It's a person that's born on a Sunday is not going to be, don't say he's going to be a person that's going to be only good. And he's not going to be only bad. Surely it's going to be good and bad. As Rav Ashi says, listen, both me and Dimi Bar Kakuza were both born on a Sunday. I became the head rabbi of the yeshiva over here, and he became the leader of the gangs, of the mafia. So obviously it doesn't mean that he's going to be. No. So what does it mean? Person that's born on a Sunday is going to have a certain nature that is going to make him a good leader. He's going to be a leader. Okay, that's Sunday. Right, Baruch Hashem. Why does this Sunday have an effect on people? Says because Sunday, Yom Rishon, was the first day of creation where light and darkness were created. Extremes. Either he's going to be a leader for good or a leader for bad based on the extreme of the creation. In the beginning, there was light and darkness, the extremes. Then the Gemara goes, we're skipping around a little bit, but the Gemara goes into celestial signs. A lot of people like to read all of this fortune-telling nonsense that's in the horoscopes and the newspapers and stuff like that. I highly recommend you stop doing that. It's a complete waste of time. Does that mean that there is no such thing as horoscopes in Judaism? No, there is. There is horoscopes in Judaism, but you're not going to find it in the newspaper. You're not going to find it in the newspaper. There are influences from the celestial signs. There are influences on a person's nature that already happened when you were created. What are these influences? And here the Gemara goes. Celestial sign dominates at the hour of one's birth, meaning it's not going to affect you this week differently, the next week. No. The hour that you were born, that is going to influence the person's nature. He who is born during the hour of the sun will be a person of lustrous appearance. He will eat his own food and drink his own beverages, but his secrets will be revealed to all. If he attempts to steal, he will be successful. He who was born during the hour of the planet Venus will be a wealthy man and will be a promiscuous man also. What's the reason? Because the fire of passion burns within him. He who was born during the hour of Mercury will be a radiant and wise man, because Mercury is the secretary, meaning the constant companion of the sun. And he who was born during the hour of the moon will be a man who suffers afflictions, a lot of suffering in his life, poor guy. And he will build and raise and build. He will have to eat food, and that is not his own. And drink beverages that are not his own. But his secrets will remain concealed, and if he attempts to steal, he will succeed. To go into the details of what each and every single one means is a completely different shiur, but I'm just giving you an understanding of what's going on here. He was born during the hour of Saturn will be a man whose every plan comes to naught. But some say every plan that is plotted against him will come to naught, meaning it could be one extreme or the other. Either he's going to be a complete failure in life, everything he tries goes to nothing, or the exact opposite. No one can touch him. Everyone's trying to take him down, nothing. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives him special protection. And he who was born during the hour of Jupiter will be a man of rectitude. So what does it mean, this rectitude? Meaning he's going to be very charitable, have money, he'll be very generous. And he who is born during the hour of Mars will be a man who spills blood. And this particular point is the one that we're going to focus on a little bit. What does it mean, spills blood? The Chachamim say, what do you mean spills blood? He's going to be a murderer? What kind of spiller of blood? He says, one of the Chachamim, Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, listen, what kind of spiller of blood? Is he going to be a butcher? Is he going to be a bloodletter? Is he going to be a murderer? Is he going to be a mohel, meaning doing brit milah? Rabba says, I was born during the hour of Mars, and I'm not a spiller of blood. And Abaye says to him, the master has also punished and killed those who violate his rulings. And thus, technically, you are a spiller of blood, meaning you're a head dayan in a Sanhedrin over here. And people that violated your rulings, you gave them the whips, or death penalty if necessary, which means technically you did spill blood. So Rabbi Hanina says, the celestial signs of one's birth determine intelligence. They determine wealth. They hold sway over Israel. Didn't we learn from Avraham Avinu that they don't have any sway over Am Yisrael? So comes Rabbi Yochanan and says, the celestial signs hold no sway over Israel. If they pray and they have merits to prevail over that, meaning your predisposition, the way you are originally, is every single person is born at a specific time, and that time will influence the person's character. this guy will be more likely to be, will have more desires to be lustuous. This guy is going to be, more into money. The other guy is going to be thief. The other guy is going to be, be attracted to blood. Different things. That is, in essence, the makeup. How that affects your life is based on your actions. You can use that knack for blood to kill people, chas v'shalom, or you could be a surgeon and save people's lives. You can use that knack to hurt people, or you could use that knack to support people. Whatever your behavior is, how you're going to utilize this whole thing. So, and then the Chachamim say, look, we see that this prayer and actions can change a person. Why? Because a person could be predestined to do something based on the stars, based on the celestial beings and so on. But if his actions follow the Torah, things can change. As we know from the story of Shmuel, the Gemara says, Shmuel was one time spending time with a friend of his who was a non-Jewish scholar, Avlet. And Avlet was a very, very wise man. He's mentioned several times in the Gemara. Says, see, this guy is passing by us. He's going to get killed, based on my understanding, he's going to get killed by a snake. Shmuel says to him, if he's a Jew, he's not going to get killed by a snake. As they would have it, they continue walking. Later on, they see this guy coming back, same guy, coming back carrying some pieces of wood. Avlet says to him, come here. He takes the guy and he put down all the things that you have. And as he takes down all the pieces of wood in his bag, he opens it and he sees that the snake was cut in half. Snake was cut in half. Fascinated, this Avlet, how did this be? I mean, according to my knowledge, this guy was supposed to be killed by the snake, not the snake killed by him. Comes Shmuel and says to the person, he says to him, what did you do? What good deed did you do today? Tell me, that maybe gave you merit for such a thing. And the guy says to him, well, listen, every day me and my fellow employees, we share, each one brings food, and we share, we put everything in one basket, and everybody shares everything. But today, one of the guys didn't have anything, and I was the only one that knew. I was the only one that knew he didn't have anything. And I knew that if he didn't have anything, he can't share everybody else. So I didn't want him to get embarrassed. So I told the guys, 1 second, and I pretended like I was doing something, but in reality, I slipped him a piece of my food, a piece of my bread, so he could put it in the basket and then make it seem as if it's his, and he doesn't have embarrassment, and he can also eat. Comes Shmuel and says, from here we learn, tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Tzedakah can save you from death. And the same thing we learn also from Rabbi Akiva's daughter. Rabbi Akiva had some friends, astrologers, that told him, listen, your daughter is destined to die on her wedding day. And Rabbi Akiva knew that according to their knowledge, this was true. But he didn't want to tell her, he didn't want to ruin her wedding. Now comes the wedding is there, so on and so forth. And Rabbi Akiva comes to the room. He sees that his daughter is gone. He comes to the room to see what's going on. He knocks on the door and he sees that his daughter is alive. He says, oh, well, Baruch HaShem, you're alive. She goes, Abba, why? And she takes the pin out of the wall that she had. She had a pin for her hair. She takes the pin out of the wall to put back in her hair. But with the pin comes the snake that was stabbed by the pin and killed. She says, oh, wow, almost got killed by the snake. Look at that, it's dead. Rabbi Akiva says, yes, my dear daughter, what did you do that was so good that gave you such a merit? She says, well, I guess, we were fasting, we were fasting all day and I haven't eaten all day. And I came to this room really to eat because I was starving, I haven't eaten all day. But as I went by, I saw that there was this poor man that came to the wedding, but no one was paying him any attention. He didn't have any food. So I said, you know what? Yalla, I gave him my food, and I still haven't eaten. And Rabbi Akiva comes and he gives a lecture to his Talmidim. From there we learn, tzedakah tetzil mimavet. Tzedakah will save your life. So we see, Rabotai, from here, that although the celestial beings, if you will, the time of birth and so on, can influence and does influence the life of a person, the traits of a person, how it influences the person is based on the person's actions. If you do good in accordance to the Torah, or if not, that all depends. Now comes the Zohar. As I told you, comes the Zohar. The Zohar, in the Ashmatot HaZohar, in Ashmatot HaZohar, in the Chelek Bet, Siman Zayin, in page 263. 263. I'm sorry, 275. 275. It says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I saw in the book of Shlomo HaMelech, that there are some people that are born during the month of the Shabtai, during the month of the Shabtai star. And these people are always unhappy. They're always unhappy. No matter what. You have Purim's coming up. Everybody's excited. The little kids are running around with little costumes. Some adults are running around with costumes. Everybody's happy with the grogger, And then you see this guy. It looks like, hey, it's not Tisha B'Av. It's not, it's not a mourning day. He goes, no, what's wrong? He says, well, what's wrong? He goes, no, I don't know. You look upset. No, I'm fine. You sure you're fine? Yeah, I'm fine. He goes, it's a happy day. I'm happy. This is how you're happy? Yeah. Well, I wonder how you look sad. Some people are like that. Some people are like that. No, it doesn't matter. The guy just had a kid. Hey, no. Mazal tov. Thanks. That's it? Thanks? Yeah, thanks. What? What do you want? You just made $1 million. Chazak u'baruch. Good for you. Yeah, thanks. That's it? Yeah, that's it. What? You're not happy? No, I'm happy. Meaning, everything is the same to him. Or he's miserable. There are some people like this. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says. There are some people like this. That they're unhappy, naturally unhappy. And here's the kicker. And the only thing that can make them happy, the only thing that can bring joy to their life is learning Torah. That's the only thing. Everything else might as well be water under the bridge. Everything else might as well be sand. Everything else, up, down, sideways, doesn't make a difference. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, people that are born during a specific time of the Shabtai, it doesn't matter what happens, these people, they're just naturally unhappy. And the only thing that brings them true joy, where they're elated, they're happy, is learning Torah. That's it. So we see here, Rabotai, some people are going to say, listen, poor guy, what if he doesn't know? What if he knows? Don't worry, Kadosh Baruch Hu knows his creation. Yeah, but maybe it's too hard. Okay, so stay unhappy. Stay unhappy. What, you want to learn Torah? No. The point being is that everybody has a choice. As the Pasuk in Tehillim, Psalm 19:9 says, Pekudei Adonai Yesharim Mesamchei Lev Mitzvot Adonai bara mirat einayim, that the orders of Hashem are upright, gladdening the heart. The command of Hashem is clear, enlightening the eyes. So David HaMelech gives us clear instructions from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, the Torah, these mitzvot, they're the ones that are going to make you happy. They're the ones that are going to make you happy. And what am I going to do about making money? What am I going to do about finding a wife? What am I going to do about finding this, finding that, making the... clarity, they will also give you. The Torah will also give you clarity. You're looking for happiness, you're looking for clarity, Torah and Mitzvot has it. Torah and Mitzvot have it. And that's where a lot of people, once they do teshuvah, they start learning, all of a sudden they see the world very clear. I know myself. Although I thought I saw the world very clear in certain parts of my life, when everything went to hell, and I was on fire and I had no idea what's right, what's left, who's this, who's that, and everything went to the garbage practically, nothing was clear. Suddenly I started learning Torah and everything started becoming clear, and not only that, I started becoming happy. So I can tell you that what the sages are saying here is not just a suggestion, chas v'shalom, it's not just a one-off, but rather tried and tested. So here we see that although the nature of a person is influenced by when he's born or when she is born. The actions of a person, needless to say, especially if they're a Jew, the actions of a person can change that fortune, can change that influence, turning it from being attracted to blood for the sake of murder into being attracted to blood for the sake of doing brit milah or surgery or so on and so forth, something positive. Being a leader of criminals or being a leader of tzaddikim, and so on and so forth. So the actions of a person will dictate how those things are going to influence you, whether you learn Torah or you don't learn Torah. So he says that this evil inclination, go back to the Chazon Ish, this evil inclination is especially active when the sin is hidden and unclear. Meaning, this sin is within his nature. He's simply attracted to being the leader. But why is being a leader of bad people a good thing? So he can tell you, listen, if I'm not going to lead them, somebody else will that he's much worse than me. So does not make it right that I should be a leader of them, because at least I won't tell them to kill people outright, just sell some drugs. No, Habibi. Being a leader of bad people is bad in any way, shape, or form. What about if there's a worse leader? HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of him too. You have a job, go be a leader of good people. Go be a leader of good people. Don't try to rationalize this thing because it makes sense in your mind. So this force, the force in a man's heart, which what we call in Hebrew matzpun, or in the psychological world they call the inner conscience, the subconscious. The subconscious of a person, which is one of the things that Hitler, Yimach Shemo v'zichro, may his name be blotted out, he's the one that says that the Jews invented the conscience. And that's one of the things that he wanted to destroy with the Jewish people. He didn't like the fact that people have an inner conscience or an inner force, as the Chazon Ish describes it, that condemns a person's destructive behavior. So this force that aids a person in his battle against the body's desires, because the person is half man, half angel practically. He has these animalistic desires, but at the same token, he has this spiritualistic desires. He wants to do good. She wants to do good, but at the same token, she wants everybody to say hi. She wants to be modest, but she wants everybody to notice her modesty. So is that really modesty? Not so much. If you're looking to get, the attraction of other people, you're looking to attract other people, that's already the opposite of modesty. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be ugly and look like you're walking in a walking garbage pail, but again, you should not be attractive. Shouldn't be attracting different people's attention. If you're looking to be modest, you should be modest, as if you don't exist. Walk and leave and go by, and listen, if that's pretty, that's not a problem. But if it's attractive, that's a problem. So now, a person wants to do good, she wants to do good, but at the same token, she has animalistic desires. These animalistic desires are what the conscience is going to remind her of. Listen, don't do it. Don't wear that. Don't put that on. Don't do this. Don't do that. Why? It's not good for you. It's not good for you. So now, a person that knows that Torah is the only instruction set that you can rely on is going to follow it. But then there are some people, as the book of Deuteronomy says, in chapter 4, verse number 6, Ki chachmatchem ve'binatchem le'nei ha'amim, that this Torah is the wisdom that we have in front of all of the nations. But then there are sometimes some people that their chokhmah is only be'enim, that their chokhmah is only in their own eyes, meaning they're smart in their own eyes. It's their own opinion. Nobody else thinks they're smart. Hashem surely doesn't think they're smart, but they think that they're smart. Why? Because they read some books, and because they have a lot of money, or they have a certain amount of success, or they have a certain amount of YouTube followers, and so on and so forth. So they think that they're smart because they did certain things that other people appreciate, respect, and so on and so forth. Mistake. The only chokhmah is the chokhmah of Torah. Other chokhmot are disposable. Now, surely, if someone has a certain wisdom, even if they're not Jewish, they have a certain wisdom in medicine, they have a certain wisdom in mathematics, they have a certain wisdom in other things. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah says, "Chokhmah b'goyim ta'amin." If there is wisdom in the non-Jews, you can believe them. Torah b'goyim al ta'amin. But if a non-Jew comes to you with Torah ideas, don't believe him. Why? There's no such thing as wisdom of Torah in the non-Jews. No wisdom. No offense. This is the rule of the Torah. This is the Gemara. Why? Because the Torah requires for you to be part of that Torah wisdom that's part of Klal Yisrael, it has to have that Jewish spark. So even though sometimes you'll see that a non-Jew comes up with a nice idea, he tells you, oh, look, Rabbi, I saw this, and I had the idea that maybe it's this, this, and this. And tell him, okay, Chazak will very nice, but this was already said by Rabbi so-and-so 20 years ago. Rabbi so-and-so 200 years ago. Meaning, your idea is good, but somebody else already had it. It's not a new innovative chidush. Not an innovative chidush. You're not creating anything. But if he comes to you with something new that none of the Jewish people have ever said, none of the wise people of Am Yisrael have ever said, can't believe it. Why? Cannot be. What is this, racism? Yeah, Hashem is racist. Call Hashem racist if you want. You want to be part of the Torah of Am Yisrael, you have to become Jewish. Simple. But doesn't mean that you have to become Jewish to learn Torah. You can learn Torah that's relevant to you. You can learn MUSSAR, you can learn the weekly parasha and so on. But if you want to start bringing new ideas into the Jewish world, into the Torah world, you have to be Jewish. Why? You need that holy spark. That connection to the rest of Klal Yisrael. That's what the Gemara in essence is saying. So now some people say, no, listen, I can do it anyway, even though I'm not Jewish, and I have a few people. There's one guy sent me a whole Megillah. He's telling me, listen, but the Chachamim say over here that really you can marry this one, but over here the Chachamim, and he's in essence grading me like as if it's his own responsa of what he thinks what the Chachamim say about a certain halacha. What do? Delete. Why delete? Again, I know the guy's not Jewish. He's not even interested in becoming Jewish, and the reality is, he has his own warped mentality of what things should be. He's already, in essence, disagreeing with the sages that he's not even enough to be their shoe. That's the thing. He is smart in his own eyes. And that happens, unfortunately, often. Why? Because that Torah that they have is not coming from a Torah of Am Yisrael, but rather it's coming from their own intellectual endeavors. Those morals that they have are only those morals because they fit their current agenda. They're not coming from the Torah. They're coming from their own agenda. They want to be kind. They want to be this. They want to be that. All these good things during that time because it fits their agenda. So what happens if it doesn't fit their agenda? Comes the Chazon Ish. And he says the following. The force that aids the person in his battle against the body's desires and wishes, this force is dormant, and it lacks the power to condemn the evil results of crooked judgment. Feelings do not take note of halacha, and if one follows one's emotions, it will not even occur to him to examine the possibility of the judgment being fallacious. Here is one of the key things that I would love for people to literally engrave this into their mind, especially people that are not religious, where they say, listen, Rabbi, I may not be as religious as you, I may not keep this, I may not keep that, but God knows my heart, and He knows that I love Him, and He knows that I'm doing my best. There is no such thing. Why? That's purely emotions. You think that God, understands your heart because you think your heart is correct. You think that your heart is correct. Why? Because your heart is telling you that Shabbat's too hard. Being pure is hard. Being modest is hard. And so on and so forth. So, Chazon Ish says, feelings don't even take note of what halacha is. Why? When you have emotions, there's no common sense. There's no rationality. It's just simply emotions. And if a person follows their emotions, it won't even occur to this person to examine whether they're right or wrong. Why? They're so emotional, they're convinced they're right. I have this particular story going on right now. One particular person that I said something about them, they're not too happy about it, and they are constantly sending me messages, so on. Listen, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. Okay, fine, you want to talk about it, but listen, prove what I'm saying is wrong. No, you said it wrong. I didn't say anything wrong. I'm telling you what I said. You see it. It's nothing's wrong. In essence, he is convinced that he's right without even reviewing the facts, without even understanding the what the Torah actually entails here. Why? Why does he assume he's right? Because it hurt his ego. It hurt his emotions. When you're using your emotions, you're not even going to consider what halacha is. You're not going to consider halacha. You say, well, listen, I didn't say this, I said something else. Listen, Habibi, you have to understand, whether you're a rabbi or you're not a rabbi, if you're mentioning Torah in your video, you're representing the Torah. Like it or not, you're representing the Torah. And if you minimize what the Torah said, even if you don't mean to, even if you meant to say, this is good, this is part of our culture, and it's not a custom, this is part of the custom and not a culture, this is this and it's not that, it's a mitzvah, it's a suggestion, it's a this, it's that. Bottom line is, if the actual message implied that a mitzvah, obligation of Torah, is lesser than the obligation that it is, you have failed. Even if you didn't mean to. Even if you didn't mean to. Even if you meant to say, no, you have to do this. No. Even if you didn't mean to. If you minimize the mitzvah, comes the Gemara. Masechet Megillah says, in Masechet Ta'anit, says, when someone minimizes any of the mitzvot, we quiet him. What does it mean, quiet them? In those days, they kill him. We're not killing anybody here. But the point being here, Rabotai, is that when a person is so emotional because they don't like being highlighted, they don't like being told off, they don't like being rebuked, they're not even thinking about what they said. They're thinking, listen, I didn't mean to say that. You understood it that way, but I didn't mean to say, yeah, I'm not the only one that understood it. Thousands of other people understood it. You minimized the mitzvah. You made a mistake. Yeah, but I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean to. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean to. This was the result. But because of your emotions, you're assuming that you're right. Now, this is not a one-off situation. Chazon Ish says this is relatively normal. A person that's emotional is not even going to evaluate what's right or what's wrong. Not even going to evaluate if they're even wrong themselves. Well, why? Because their emotions will take the best of them. It's therefore, the Chazon Ish continues, it's therefore not at all surprising to find individuals whose character traits have been refined to a certain extent. Meaning the guy overall, the girl overall, typically beautiful, nice, generous, likable, this, that, all the good things you could say. Everyone wants to call this person my best friend. Typically. Why? Because overall, this person is always generous, this, that, all the good things. Chazon Ish says, it's not surprising to find this individual whose character traits have been refined to a certain extent, but suddenly we see this person under particular circumstances displaying a different trait. When they get involved in a weighty conflict with a fellow Jew, they refuse to heed the opinion of the wise, meaning of the chachamim, of the person that knows halacha. He's not looking for the halacha. Lo yidrosh achar halacha. He's not following the halacha. Doesn't matter to him the halacha. Doesn't matter to the halacha. Yeah, but the halacha says you can't do this. Halacha says you can't wear that. Halacha says you can't go there. Nah, no, come on. Oh, I didn't know you just yell at rabbis just like that. And I didn't know. No, it's because of this, because of that. How? How did that happen? When they get into a weighty conflict with a fellow Jew, they refuse to heed the opinion of the wise, nor do they seek out what the halachic ruling is. Instead, they find themselves deeply embroiled in conflict, and all of the refinement of their souls having disappeared into thin air. Here we see, Rabotai, the Chazon Ish in so many words saying, without halacha, it is impossible to be a moral person on a regular basis, especially when there is a pressure test, especially when there is something that is putting your morals to the test. Simple. on the everyday basis, you'll be happy. Hello, hello, how are you? How are you? Hello to everybody. Very nice. Somebody comes to you for a few dollars. Very kind. Somebody invites you somewhere. You show up. You have an event. You invite everybody. Overall, every day, you're amazing. But the second push comes to shove. Your husband pushes a nerve. Your wife pushes a nerve. Your kid pushes a nerve. Your boss pushes a nerve. Your fellow employee pushes a nerve. The rabbi pushes a nerve or two maybe. And all of a sudden the two horns come out of the head, taking over the surface surrounding it, trying to kill whatever is near it. What happened? I thought you were a human. What happened? I thought you were a Bat Israel. What happened? Why are you rushing towards me? What's going on over here? It becomes a horror movie. Why? Button. But what happened to the kindness? What happened to the humility? What happened to the generosity? What happened to all of that? All of that, Rabotai, the Chazon Ish says, was not based on the Torah. She wasn't generous, kind, and moral because of the Torah. She was because it fit her personality as a result of the time she was born. It was her nature. Simple. It was her nature to smile when people walked around. It was her nature to be kind. It was her nature to do all these different things. But as soon as you disrupted her nature, then comes out all of those feelings, all of those things go in the garbage, and another part of her nature, the destructive part, comes out and could literally murder whoever's in front of her. With a smile at the end. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Even. This, Rabotai, is what happens when a person simply does not follow what the Torah says to the T. There's an example of this I learned with Rabbi Ephraim that really puts things in perspective. In the Torah, the book of Leviticus, we have a very interesting verse. This Parashat Kedoshim, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, in verse number 17. Here we're talking about how Am Yisrael needs to be holy, and what makes Am Yisrael holy by the way we treat our morality, our intimacy, how we treat our wives, how we treat our fellow Jews, how we treat ourselves in privacy, and so on and so forth. Comes the mitzvah that forbids incestual relationships between a brother and a sister. In verse 17, ואיש אשר ייקח את אחותו, בת אביו או בת אמו, וראה את ערוותה, והיא תראה את ערוותו, חסד הוא, ונחרטו לעיני בני עמם, ערוות אחותו גילה עוונו יישא. A man who shall take his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother, meaning a guy wants to marry his sister. He figures, listen, I babysat her, I took care of her, I know exactly what she likes, I know what she doesn't like. Perfect mate, why not? This is what psychopaths think. One of the subjects, can't even call him a human being, they review it as one of the movie. We didn't include this Rasha Merusha, but one of the people, he himself, this is exactly how he thinks. This is exactly how he thought. He said that he had, Hashem Yishmor, a daughter that he was in essence making for himself. That's how psychopaths have, and he had 1,200 victims, really a big monster in society, somehow still alive. Point being is, sick people will rationalize the worst things. This guy here, Hashem said, listen, this guy says, I want to marry my sister. Why? I babysat her, I took care of her, I know what she likes, she knows what I like. We look alike. What's the problem? I know she has a good family. What's the problem? He wants to marry his sister. And he shall see her nakedness, and she shall see his nakedness. Chesed u. Chesed means, normally, kindness. Why is this chesed? Why is this kindness? Now, if you're going to look in your Art Scroll Chumash in English, you're not going to see kindness. You're going to see the word disgrace. But in Hebrew, it says chesed. Chesed typically means kindness. So how come the English translation says disgrace? Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. And I'll tell you why. It says, he sees our nakedness as a disgrace, and they shall be cut off in the sight of the members of their people. He will have uncovered the nakedness of his sister, and she bear his iniquity. Meaning, they're both din karet, they're cut off from the people, death penalty, Hashem Yishmo. Their incest is forbidden. If there's any children coming from an ancestral relationship, that child is called a mamzer. A mamzer is not allowed to marry anyone among Am Yisrael. That is not a mamzer. As I told you last week, it's either they're allowed to marry a mamzer or a convert. But a convert is only because Hashem created a way for the child to fix his heritage in the future. Now, the point being here is that we see an unusual word in this whole mitzvah of forbidding ancestral relationships, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes, he says he wants to see her, she wants to see him, she said, this is a chesed. But the Mefarshim, Rashi on the place, says this chesed is really disgrace. Wait, so how do you decide it's a disgrace or is it a kindness? Well, we surely know it's a disgrace because we know they get death penalty. We know they get punished. So obviously it's not kindness. So how would we know? Why is it called chesed then? Why is chesed sometimes used as a disgrace and sometimes used as kindness? These are two opposites. So Rashi brings a midrash and he says, look, the midrash says that you're going to say, look, Cain and Abel, they married their sisters. Cain was born with a twin sister and he married her. Abel was born with two sisters, two twin sisters, and he married them. And Chazal says that this is the reason why Cain killed Abel. He was jealous that he had two wives. So that's why he killed him. And on this particular action, when they were together, it says that Hashem made a chesed, and Cain and Abel were able to marry their wives. What's the chesed? What's the kindness? Hashem made an exception one time in history in order to allow the world to exist, because there was no other people in the world. In order to allow the world to exist and to populate, if you will, Cain and Abel were allowed to marry their twin sisters. But this was a one-time exception that was the will of Hashem, hence the chesed, hence the kindness. So it's kindness when it's the will of Hashem. It's a disgrace when it's your will. You see, it's kindness for Cain and Abel because Hashem willed it. Hashem wanted them to be with their sisters because that was the way to populate the world. He made an exception as a one-time case simply to populate the world. But if you want to do what Cain and Abel did, you are a disgrace. Why? Because it's no longer the will of Hashem. How do we know it's no longer the will of Hashem? The Torah says so. It's not the will of Hashem anymore. And if you do it, you're following your own will, not the will of Hashem. So you see here, Rabotai, is that if a person follows his own intuition, that is motivated by his inner desires, that are influenced by how he was born and when he was born and so on, that intuition, that desire will have animalistic influence that will lead him astray. To translate that word as kindness, incest being kindness. Same thing when it talks about men and women not being allowed to be promiscuous. The word that's used in the Torah is kdoshim. Kdoshim in most places means holy. But here Hashem says no, in that particular case it means promiscuous. It's holy when it's following my words. It's promiscuous and forbidden when it's following your desire. So here we see when a person follows their intuition, they're bound to fail miserably, because they don't even know where is right and where is left in order to know that right is the right direction and left is the wrong direction. They don't know how to read the words. They don't know how to follow anything. They're simply reading things as is. Hence the reason why in Christianity, there's so many mistakes in every single page and practically every single verse in their false testament, because they're reading things literally. They don't know what's right. They don't know what's left. Same thing with the Quran. They don't know what's right. They don't know what's left. And they make a million different mistakes. Literally a million different mistakes that the average yeshiva bachu that studies the subject and knows a little bit of Chumash can spot it in any Quran and any New Testament, but there's no reason to do that because that's just bitul Torah. But the point being is that all of the converts that come from from different religions, they're not discovering the Torah and saying, oh wow, it's so much better. It's not just that. They're coming to the Torah and saying, my whole life was fake. Everything I believe was fake. You say to them, why? Isn't Joshke a good guy? Isn't Muhammad his best friend? Like, why? He says that, what's the problem? No, you don't understand. That whole New Testament, that whole Quran, all that stuff, it was all fake. It was all nonsense. It was all complete garbage made up by people. The Torah is real. Why? Because once you see the truth, falsehood is irrelevant. But you cannot see the truth from your own perspective. You have to see the truth from someone who knows Torah, from someone who knows what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said and how to translate the words. So it's not their perspective even. It's literally what Da'at Torah is, what the opinion of the Torah is. Because they've toiled and toiled and toiled for many, many years and relied on other sages before them that also toiled for many, many years, literally the information that you're getting is based on a 3,000 year knowledge, not opinion. 3,000 years of knowledge, 3,000 years of toiling. It's not this random guy's opinion today in the year 2021. Whereas your interpretation of whatever you're reading, even if it's Torah, it's not going to be based on 3,000 years. Why? Because you don't know enough yet. You don't know enough yet. That's why we always have to bring sources. So the point is here, Rabotai, is that when a person relies on their own knowledge, relies on their own intuition, relies on their own abilities, they're bound to fail miserably. They're bound to fail so miserably because even reading the words, they will not be able to do. Even understanding how to apply them, they will not be able to do. Whereas when a person relies on the sages, they're going to be able to know this has a connecting point, not just to the rabbi that told me, and not just to his rabbi, but all the way to the source itself. All the way to the source itself. Now, when a person humbles themselves and accepts Da'at Torah for what it is, it becomes very easy to become a pure vessel that accepts the truth as is. What gets in the way of many people? Their emotions. Why? Because they're willing to accept the truth as long as it doesn't disturb their reality. As I once said, everyone loves the truth until it obligates them. Until it obligates them. People love, when I talk about, Mechalel Shabbat is an idol worshiper, they love it. Why? Because they keep Shabbat, so it doesn't bother them. I say into marriage, it's din karet, it's death penalty. They don't care. Why? Because they're married to a Jewish person. They don't care. But if I say wasting seed is forbidden, or if I say cash advance business is forbidden, or anything else that's forbidden, and they're the ones that are, the perpetrator of this crime, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this rabbi, I don't know what's gone into him. He's a little bit extreme. He's fanatic. What fanatic? I'm mentioning to you what Torah says. How come it wasn't fanatic when I said it about Shabbat? How come it wasn't fanatic when I said it about anything else? You love the truth until it obligates you. And that's happened many times with different people that cried out the name of the rabbi as if he's the Mashiach. I love him, I love him, I love him. The second he said something that obligates them specifically, or simply is the opposite of what they believed, all of a sudden their spears, stones, grenades, curse everything under the sun. And I've seen this many times, and unfortunately, that is a true and outright proof that that person was not a fan of that rabbi. That person was not learning from the rabbi. That person was simply entertained. That's it. They weren't learning. They were simply entertained, collecting information to add to their emotional disposition. Collecting information in order to support their pre-existing beliefs. That's it. They weren't learning anything for the sake of improving themselves. They weren't learning anything in order to make themselves a better version. No, they were in essence looking for different bits of information that could add to their already wicked personality, their already rotten ideology. And that's unfortunately happened more than once, and unfortunately not the last time. Why? It's just the nature of people. If you're going to learn Torah without an intention to change yourself, then the Torah will be a sam amavet. The Torah will be a potion of death. Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, and several other places. Gemara says, if you treat the Torah like it's supposed to, it'll be a potion of life. It'll take you out of depression. It'll fix your problems. You'll be in cloud nine all the time. But if you don't treat the Torah the right way, and you simply treat it as if it's an intellectual endeavor, you already think you're talking to God directly, you already think that you know more than the rabbis, you already think that the rabbis are not giving you enough credit because you really are an undercover, undiscovered big deal, you, my friend, are in serious trouble. Why? The Torah that you're learning, and I'll repeat, the Torah that you're learning is a potion of death to you. Why? Because you're not looking to improve yourself. You already think you're perfectly fine. And it's the rabbis that are not giving you enough credit. It's the Jewish people that are not giving you enough pat on the back. It's society that has not discovered how holy you are. You, my friend, are using the Torah incorrectly, and therefore the Torah itself is making itself a potion of death to you. Why? That's what happens when you do something bad to someone. If you cheat on your wife and you think she doesn't know, guess what? Maybe one day she'll put a little extra in your drink. You're going to say, oh, why are you trying to kill me? Well, what's so wrong with that? She's not going to see anything wrong with it. You're killing me emotionally. I'm going to do a little physically. What's the problem? Now, of course, it's not recommended, but in essence, that's what the Torah does to people. If you mistreat the Torah will tell you, you're treating me like an intellectual endeavor. You're treating me as if you already know me and you know everything about me, and you're going against those sages, those rabbis that toiled their entire lives just learning me, and you're going against them. You're disagreeing with them. I will become a potion of death for you. Why? You used your logic instead of da'at Torah, the opinion of the Torah. And Torah feels like it's being cheated. And that's actually what happens. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, Rachel, the Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 62b, says that Rachel saw this young man, 40 years old, named Akiva, who worked for her father, Kalba Savua. Kalba Savua was one of the 3 richest men of the land. Holy man, righteous man, knew some Torah, and wanted his young, beautiful daughter to marry a Talmid Chacham. But this young, righteous Rachel, she had a different plan. She saw that this guy that's cleaning the horses for her father is Akiva, son of converts. He has great midot, perfectly suited for a husband. What about the Torah? She says, with those good character traits, I'll send him to go learn Torah, and he'll become the perfect human being. He'll become a Talmid Chacham with good character traits. And everyone knows the story, how she got married to him. Kalba Savua, her father, got mad and disowned her. She still went forward with it. She sent her husband, Akiva, to yeshiva for 12 years. He came back while one of her wicked neighbors was making fun of her, saying that this Akiva probably left her and he's abandoned her and so on. And she said, no, my Akiva is learning Torah, and if he really knew what I wanted, he would go for another 12 years. And Akiva, who's now become Rabbi Akiva, heard the will of his wife Rachel, and went back to yeshiva for another 12 years in order to make sure that there is the continuation of the Torah. Continuation of the Torah made him much greater. It wasn't 12 plus 12 equals 24, but rather a magnification of the effect, similar to the reason of why Talmidei Chachamim hated the fact that there is yeshiva bachurim go and take long breaks from their yeshiva learning for months at a time, every few months. Why? Because when you learn Torah on a continuous basis, it has much more impact on your neshama than if you just learn randomly. The point being is that Rav Gifter alav shalom, one of the Gedolei Israel, that was in America, says he never understood why there's even ben azmanim. He never understood it. He says in our yeshiva, we're considered strict by having ben azmanim for only 1 month a year. But other yeshivot have it every other month. Because I never even understand why we have a month. He says, I don't understand why we have a month. I don't understand why we have ben azmanim. This is the time to learn Torah. What else is there to do in the world? And this is the previous generation in America. Now, the point is, Rabotai, is that Rabbi Akiva's wife, Rachel, says, go for another 12 years. Rabbi Akiva didn't even say hello to her, went back to yeshiva for another 12 years, came back after 24 years of not seeing his wife with 24,000 students. The biggest rabbi ever, aside from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu had all of Am Yisrael as his students. Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students. No one else ever had, before or after, as many students as Rabbi Akiva. Now, you have Rabbi Akiva himself, who used to be an Am Haaretz, ignoramus, doesn't know anything, cleans horses, but had good character traits. In the Gemara Masechet Psachim, he says in Psachim 49b, he says to his students that when he was an Am Haaretz, before he learned Torah, he hated Talmidei Chachamim, he hated Torah scholars. So much so that when he would see a Torah scholar, he would want to bite him like a donkey. And the Talmidim said, Rebbe, why a donkey? Why not a fox or a dog or something? He says, no, I hated them so much, these religious people, that I wanted to bite them like a donkey, because when a fox or a dog bites, they just eat the flesh. When a donkey bites, he crushes the bones. Meaning his hatred of Torah scholars, of religious people, was enormous. Literally more than lefty liberals today. So what is Rabbi Akiva? Why is he telling this to his students? Why he's saying Lashon Hara about himself? What's to learn from here? Everything. He is saying in a single sentence, in a single story, everything that we learned so far today from the Chazon Ish. He says, listen, my wife picked me out because she saw that I had good traits. When I was with the horses, I was nice to the animals. There was some rabbi that I did some work for, and he didn't have the money, and I ended up being okay with it. And I said, okay, no problem, you don't have it, no big deal. And there's different stories of Rabbi Akiva before he knew Torah that show he had good character traits. He was a really nice guy. But comes Rabbi Akiva and testifies on himself, and he says, I hated the scholars so much, I wanted to crush their bones. Give me a nice scholar so I can rip him in half. Where's the good character traits? Comes Rabbi Akiva and says to his students, Rabotai Yekarim, before I had Torah, I had good traits only because that was my fortune. I was born a certain way and I had good traits, and whenever it fit my agenda to express those traits, it fit. But as soon as one of those religious people crossed my path and I didn't like him, he gave me an attitude, he did something, whatever it was, my hatred for him was much greater than anyone else. Meaning that my traits were flawed. So flawed that the hatred that I had to the good, to the best people, was magnified even worse than hatred to bad people. Why? Because my morals were based on my own intuition, my own understanding, my own upbringing, and that's never going to be good enough. That's never going to be good enough. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, we have a pasuk. We have a pasuk in Psalms 32:9. It says, "Don't be like a horse or like a mule, uncomprehending. To restrain it with a muzzle and brittle when it's adorned." So comes David HaMelech in Psalm 32:9, says, don't be a horse, don't be a donkey. So what if Rabbi Akiva comes and gives a lecture based on the words of David HaMelech? What is he going to say? Guys, don't be horses, don't be donkeys. That's the lesson from David HaMelech. What's the lesson here? David HaMelech is trying to teach us. The horse has good manners. He's nice. He's helps you. He'll do work for you. He'll do a lot of things. The mule, same thing. Same thing. He'll carry your load. He'll do everything. But that's only when you feed it, when you treat it good, when you're in its right position. But if you taunt it, if you starve it, if you don't treat it right, and you're right at the perfect position for its foot, you're going to see that foot meet your face real quick without even having a second opportunity. So don't be like a horse, where as soon as everybody's nice to you, you're perfectly nice, you do your job, you do this, you do that, but the second they say something you don't like, you kick them in the face with a memorable kick. Don't be such a horse. Don't be such a person. My dear grandfather, Saba Gibri, Alav Shalom, he was a part of a family of Giborim, of heroes. I've told you a couple of stories about him. And one time there was a guy that had horses who said to my Saba, he said, this horse over here, that's a evil horse. He says, why is it evil horse? He says, anyone that goes on that horse, immediately that horse does everything possible to not only get the person off, but literally to hurt the person, break his back, hurt him, and so on and so forth. That horse is an evil horse. If you want him, take him for free. My Saba said, okay, give it to me. He takes the horse, but he doesn't ride him. He takes him to the big ocean. Oh, HaShem, Israel has quite an ocean over there. We grew up in Netanya. There's a big ocean. Takes him to the ocean and puts him into the water right up to the point where his neck. Now, of course, without being trained, the horses can't really move that much in the ocean. Can't really move that much in the ocean. So that's when he goes and he climbs on top of him and he starts hitting him. Starts hitting him. After a little while, the little horse that was evil, it's like a little pussycat. Why? He got the training. He got the training. Rav Ephraim teaches. He says, don't be like the horse, that you need beatings. Don't be like the horse that need beatings. You can go into the ocean of Torah, and there where you can learn. Or you can get the beatings like the horse and get trained. But sometimes, if you already think you know enough Torah, and you're still acting like a horse, you'll get bored. Both you need to learn Torah, and you need to get some beatings and sufferings from HaShem. That's why it doesn't pay to be a horse. It pays to be someone that listens to the Torah, someone that listens to the Chachamim. Rabotai Yekarim, we have many different things in the Torah that if we do not pay attention to the smallest details, our logic can tell us that we are right when we are in fact wrong. In this Sefer, when you go out to war, a wonderful Sefer about Tikkun BEIT that has a lot of different sources about Tikkun BEIT, different things, and he brings different Gemara, different sources from all over the place. And he mentions the Gemara. Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra, page 57b, where it talks about a story with Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, who says that, a famous Gemara, that if there is a person who knows that there is two ways to get from point A to point B. Point A to point B. Point A is shorter, and he's in a hurry. Point B is longer. So far, point A sounds like the better choice. But point A has girls, has all types of pubs and clubs and all types of things over there. But he is literally going to get to where he needs to in 5 minutes. And he figures, you know what, I'm going to close my eyes. Point B is longer. There's no girls, there's no nothing over there. But it's a long road, it's going to take him a half hour. And he's going to be late. Comes the Chachamim and say, which one did he go? Because if he went the shorter direction, because that made sense to him, especially since he believed in himself that he's going to close his eyes and not look at the immorality, not look at the promiscuity, not look at the forbidden. He trusts himself, she trusts herself that even though she's going to sleep at his house, she's not going to touch. Even though he's going to cross her path, they're not going to do nothing. They trusted themselves. Gemara says, Rasha'u, wicked. But he didn't sin. He didn't do anything. He actually got to his destination without sinning. Gemara says, according to our Torah, they're still considered wicked. Why are they still considered wicked without sinning? Because even bringing yourself close to the sin intentionally, shows that you have no yirat shamayim, shows that really deep inside, you're wicked. You trust yourself too much, you have too much arrogance, you think that you know better than the sages that warned you to stay away from certain things. In so many words, there are so many things that you did wrong as a result of that decision, that surely you have not learned anywhere near enough Torah. You are only using your logic, but you're saying that what you're saying makes Torah sense. Why? Because you're trying to get to the shiur on time. You're trying to be morally correct. You don't want to be late. So that's why you took that path. That decision for the sake of morals was not the morals of the Torah. Was your morals, was your honor, was your ego. It had nothing to do with Torah. Because if you follow the Torah, you would know there's no permission whatsoever to get close to sin. No permission whatsoever. Not in dating, not in business, not in anything. Now, he then brings the Tarat HaKodesh by Rabbi Yaron Reuven, who says that, I quote, when a Jew walks in the streets and his evil inclination clatters inside him to look this way and that way at women, and he restrains himself from gazing at them, at that moment, he has a time of divine goodwill in heaven, like at the closing of Yom Kippur, in which he can request whatever he wants. And who would be a fool to turn away from this? So here comes Rabbi Yaron Reuven, one of the great sages of the last 100 years that he discussed Tikkun BEIT, and he says, when you follow the sages, exactly word for word, you wouldn't even go that path. You wouldn't even go that path. Now, what if you don't have that kind of an option? There isn't a right or a left. Both paths, this is New York, this is Tel Aviv. They're full of filth anywhere. So obviously, you're not a wicked person. You're not trying to beat the system, but the bottom line is, you're trying to go somewhere. What do you do when you have no place to go? What, if you go, you're wicked? No. You have to stop yourself from looking. If you stop yourself from looking, you have the protection of heaven. And not only that, what's going to keep you motivated? Rabbi Yaron Reuven says, get motivated by the fact that if you pass this test, that you didn't bring on yourself, you're just simply, this is where you are in the world. You didn't bring this test on yourself. This is a test that HaShem brought to you. And you're going to pass that test by not looking at immorality, by not doing anything wrong. You can now ask HaShem for anything you want, just like on Yom Kippur. And then he brings a chidush to me. First two things I knew, Baruch Hashem. But then Rabbi Yaakov, that wrote this book, brings a chidush I never heard before. Wonderful chidush. from the son of Rabbi Yaron Reuven, the son of the Shomer Emunim, the son of Rabbi Yaron Reuven, says that he heard it from his father's mouth directly, that when a Jew walks in a small immodest street and guards his eyes, again, he didn't bring this test on himself, this is the only thing available, but he guards his eyes, it's considered in heaven as if he completed a small tractate in Gemara. He just completed Masechet Ta'anit. He just completed Masechet Rosh Hashanah. He just completed Masechet Megillah. Just from that walk. Why? It's that much of a big deal. And when he walks in a big immodest street, he just has no option. He has to go through Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. He has to go to one of these, not because he brought it on himself. That's where his job is. He has no other option. This is where he's feeding his kids. There is no other way. And he passed this street, this big immodest street, and he guarded his eyes, not even for a second, he's not looking anywhere. It's inappropriate. Says Rabbi Yaron Reuven, it's considered in heaven as if he finished a big tractate in Gemara. He just finished Masechet Shabbat, Masechet Iruvin, Masechet Psachim, and so on and so forth. That's how much of a big deal it is to not only watch your eyes, Rabotai, that you already knew, but to watch your eyes because the Chachamim told you to. To watch your eyes because that's what it says in the Torah. Not because it makes sense to you and because your wife's next to you. No. Because that's what the Seder says. That's what's going to preserve your neshama. Yiratzon, that each and every single one of us will glue ourselves to the Holy Torah and its sages to protect our holy neshamot, to make sure that we publicize the Torah, to make sure that we live the Torah, and overcome all of the evil inclination that we have in us, regardless of when we were born, regardless of where we live, regardless of what upbringing we have. We use the Torah and its sages to follow the words of HaShem 100% without any exception, and to bring as many of the precious neshamot that are around the world that want the truth to the truth once and for all. So when the Mashiach Tzidkenu does arrive, he has many, many people to welcome him and to bring salvation to. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'amen.
You know when you have a dream and you see a pretty woman? You've had that? Now you never actually see an ugly woman in dreams. It's always a pretty woman. And by the way, it's always the same woman for all of us. All of us have a dream of the same exact woman. And she's more dangerous than the Satan himself. Who is she? You're not even allowed to say her name. What are you going to call her for?
It functions very much like drugs.
People are addicted to it.
I tried to quit dozens of times, hundreds of times.
My fantasies and stuff, they're not mine anymore.
Cabinet ministers, judges, diplomats, even one of the country's top spies. These men are accused of some of the most sadistic child sexual abuse imaginable on hundreds of victims.
It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never gonna have enough. If you starve it and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah, you're always gonna be happy.
HaShem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, introducing the new BeEzrat HaShem lecture center. We HaShem are here in Cooper City, Florida, on Sterling Avenue. We have in the same shopping center we have a major kosher supermarket. Lots of Jews out here. Initially, we're going to start off this place next month with the place where we're going to do our weekly shulim 3 times a week. And HaShem, as the crowd grows, maybe we'll add some more shulim in Hebrew as well. Initially, it's going to be for men and women in English, and then later on, HaShem will do some other things. Later on, we're going to need to transform this place also into a synagogue. But as you can see, the walls are empty. We need an enormous amount of books. We need a self-reliance. We need an Aron Kodesh. We need a mechitza. We need a bima. We need all the holy things that you need for a synagogue. Now, throughout the years, we've been very generous to other people who've donated to Torah, who've donated money to different synagogues, and I'm sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us the right people to donate all of these things to our organization, because all we want to do is spread Torah to the world. So anyone that is serious and looking to make a major contribution to our organization, whether it be the Sefer Torah, or the Aron HaKodesh, or the Mechitza, please contact us, or simply go to our website, beezrathashem.org, and may Hashem continue to bless you.